The New York Rangers have been eliminated from the Stanley Cup playoffs in 7 games by the New Jersey Devils, and I feel absolutely nothing because the Rangers took Game 7 off. They got run out of the building by the Devils. They fail Igor Shesterkin by hitting the Devils their first 2 goals on a silver platter. Artemi Panarin plays the worst hockey of his NHL career. All this and much, much more on today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers. Welcome back, Blueshirts fans, to episode number 818 of the Locked On New York Rangers podcast. I'm your host, John Chick. Just want to thank you guys, as always, for making Locked On New York Rangers your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube, and we are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off of your first purchase. And as I just mentioned a second ago, for a Game 7 and being now in the aftermath of a Game 7, I felt absolutely nothing during this game, and especially after this game. You watch a Game 7, no matter who your team is, and you don't even have to be a fan of either team. If you watch a Game 7, there's usually a lot of tension, a lot of excitement. You get the butterflies in your stomach kind of a feeling. I felt more of that watching the Panthers play the Bruins in Game 7 than I did watching the Rangers play the Devils in Game 7. And that should never happen because, of course, I am a fan of the New York Rangers. But this is about as unexciting of a Game 7, if you're a Ranger fan, as you can possibly imagine. There was never a moment in this game where the Rangers had the better of play. There was never a moment where they outworked the Devils. There was never a moment where they got their game going a little bit. There was never any reason to believe that the New York Rangers were going to find a way to win this game. And of course, in theory, it's still in reach. You're scoreless after 1 and you're down 1-0 early in the second period, and even 2-0. You would think that, we still got a shot at this thing. By the time this score went 2-0, this game was over. Done, finish, kaput. No chance the Rangers are coming back and winning this game. No chance the Rangers, down 2-0, are going to find a way to score 3 goals in this game. That's what happens when every single star player on your team, and basically just every single player on your team, other than Igor Shesterkin, is a complete and utter no-show. And that's what the Rangers got in Game 7. It's also what the Rangers got in Games 4 and 5 of this series. I think certainly the coaching staff has to answer to that. The players have to answer to that. And this series loss, when you look at it as a whole, the fact that they were up 2-0, the fact that they took 3 games off in this series, and especially took Game 7 off, this series, and especially this Game 7 performance, all of it together, this stuff is going to stick to a lot of players on the New York Rangers for a very long time, whether it's Artemi Panarin or Patrick Kane, Mika Zibanejad, Chris Kreider. Mika and Kreider got it going a little bit, and Kreider had a good amount of points in this series, but he also had a dreadful Game 7. We'll get to that in a little bit as well. Adam Fox disappeared after a hot start. The kids couldn't get anything going. You could pretty much go up and down the lineup. Trocheck was invisible, and there was no fight. There was no snarl. There was no energy coming from this Ranger team, and I think that's why myself and a lot of Ranger fans feel so empty right now. They never gave us a reason in this game to, jump out of our seats, fist pump, yell, scream, get excited, get happy, feel anything. Just feel something. I felt nothing watching this game last night. And when it ended, it wasn't like, maybe it'll sink in later. I'll be upset about this, or I'll be angry, or whatever the emotions might be. Maybe the same thing goes for you guys, the everydayers as well. But for the time being, just numb. They didn't care, so why should I care that much? If I care more than the players do, if you guys care more than the players do, that's a problem. And I don't know if that's 100% the truth, but watching the Rangers' performance in this game last night in Game 7, combined with the fact that they also pretty much no-showed Game 5 and Game 4 as well, that's obviously not a good thing. And like I said, this performance, this showing from the Rangers in this series, and especially in Game 7, this is going to stick to these players for a very, very long time. You're hopeful after the first period that the Rangers can still get it going. The first period was definitely lackluster for the Rangers. I thought for sure they got outplayed at times in the first period. But you were still just kind of hopeful because, Igor Shesterkin, he's got his A game. He's made a couple of really nice saves here. He's kept us in it. The Rangers had some power play opportunities that they could not convert on. But, at least they're forcing the Devils into taking some penalties. Maybe you can finally break through on the power play a little bit later in this game. Nothing materialized. And I tweeted out after the first period that, okay, bad news is that the Devils are clearly outplaying the Rangers right now. The good news is that Igor Shesterkin has his A game, and we're still scoreless after 1. And you figure, okay, the Rangers, they'll step on the gas, they'll get it going for the final 40 minutes. But I also included in that tweet, if they play the way they did in the first period for the final 2 periods, probably not going to get it done. And as it turned out, the first period was far and away the best period that the Rangers played. And we're talking about a period here where 13 of the first 14 shot attempts belong to the New Jersey Devils. The Rangers spent the entire period, minus the power plays, trapped in their own zone and back on their heels and basically relying on Igor Shesterkin to go into God mode. It almost looked like watching this game, the Rangers figured they could just win this game 1-0 in double overtime, score some lucky fluky goal, and rely on Igor Shesterkin to make about 65 or 70 saves, in the meantime. And obviously that's just not going to cut it. Devils, credit to them. I mean, listen, I'm one of the few people, and I see some comments, on the YouTube section and everything. That's all well and good. Everybody can leave a comment. We've had some Devils fans kind of jump on here for the podcast. And I mean, hey, if I'm a Devils fan, I'm going to listen to any podcast I can find right now. I'm going to read any article I can find right now because I'm sure they're feeling really good right now. But, the idea that I didn't give credit to the Devils, I said coming into this series, and it's something that I'll say again right here, right now, I don't think a single team in the NHL worked harder against the New York Rangers in the regular season than the Devils. And I gave a lot of credit to Kira Schmid, and obviously the Devils ran the Rangers out of the building last night and came through in the clutch in a Game 7 when the Rangers did not. But yeah, I mean, the Devils were far and away the better team, and the Rangers, two things can be true. The Devils played an outstanding hockey game last night, and the Rangers didn't show up last night. And when you put those two things together, all the puck luck and all the Igor Shesterkin magic in the world is not going to make a difference. The Rangers had no chance of winning this game the way that they played pretty much for the entire 60 minutes and certainly for the final 40 minutes. And I want to kind of turn our attention to really illustrate, what went on in this game and just how frustrating it was and how the Rangers truly pulled a complete no-show. Look no further than the first two goals of this game scored by the New Jersey Devils. And we'll start with the first goal here. Just an absolutely horrible play by Adam Fox and Chris Kreider. I'm sorry. I know I'm being a little harsh here. There's no other way to say it. This was terrible by both of them. Mika Zibanejad tried to pick them up. He came sliding into the screen, trying to break up a scoring opportunity. Mika didn't look great on this play either, but the whole thing was set up by laziness and sloppiness by Adam Fox and Chris Kreider. I'm not going to put this one on Mika. He could have defended this a little bit better, but he was trying to clean up the mess that Adam Fox and Chris Kreider had already created by sliding across the ice. It didn't work. So let's take it from the top of this play. So it's 4-on-4. The Rangers are about to get their guy back onto the ice and begin the power play. And I honestly think what happened here, part of what happened, the Rangers got a little bit too obsessed with trying to run out the remainder of the 4-on-4. They were just going to, maintain possession of the puck in their own zone, grind out the remaining time that was left on the 4-on-4, wait for their guy to get back on the ice, and then go to work and then try to advance the puck up the ice for the power play. I honestly think that's what they got caught doing here, and I guess they just assumed that the Devils were going to sit back, also knowing that the Rangers were about to go on the power play. But Andre Palat had other plans. He came up, got in Adam Fox's face, pressured him in the corner, got the puck away from him briefly, had a chance to shoot from the face-off circle. Now, Fox and Kreider, they had him 2-on-1, and they kind of outnumbered him and got possession of the puck back for the Rangers. Kreider tries to skate away with the puck, and at that point, Palat chases him down from behind, steals the puck from him, picks his pocket, basically. Palat now has the puck. He's got Adam Fox in front of him, absolutely undresses Adam Fox, goes to the net, and that's when Mika, like I mentioned, he came sliding into the screen and tried to break up, a late developing 2-on-1, so Mika's not really in his element there. He did the best that he could, but you get the pass, from Palat. He gets it, through Mika over to McLeod. McLeod, little forehand, backhand on the doorstep, tucks the puck home, and it's 1-0 in favor of the Devils. But just a miserable play here by both Adam Fox and Chris Kreider. You just expect your star players to be better than this, to work harder than this, to want it more than this, to have their heads in the game more than this. Andre Palat went in there and basically he went 1-on-3 against Fox, Kreider, and Mika. And again, I'm not going to kill Mika on this play, but the other two, yeah, that was just absolutely awful by Fox and Mika. Credit to Palat for making a play there, getting it to McLeod, and McLeod scores on the backhander. And like I said, I do think the Rangers on this play were too obsessed with trying to run out the remaining time left on the 4-on-4, because right before this, the Rangers were shorthanded, there was a penalty on the Devils, and Tyler Mott did what I thought was a smart thing. He carried the puck basically from the Devil zone all the way back up the ice, back into the Ranger zone, and he was trying to run out the clock on the Devils' power play, whatever time was remaining there. But when Mott was doing it, you can understand it a little bit more because it's a risk-free play. Once the Devils touch the puck on the delayed penalty, the whistle's going to blow anyway. Here, Fox and Kreider are just messing around in their own zone, and I think too focused on trying to run out what was left of the 4-on-4 and get their team on the power play. And Plot and to a lesser extent McLeod made both of them pay for it, and just an ugly goal there. It's funny because coming into this game, I was talking about what an opportunity this was for the Rangers. If you're somebody who had a little bit of a rough regular season or a rough showing so far in the first 6 games of this series, you've got everything in front of you at this point. It's a winner-take-all Game 7. You've got a chance to make a lot of people forget about a so-so regular season or a bad performance thus far in the playoffs, and not a single New York Ranger where that applies to took advantage of that opportunity. What ended up happening is the Devils ended up taking advantage of that opportunity. You've got Andre Palat. That play by him, that was only his second assist of the postseason of the 7 games here, and I don't believe he scored a goal before this. I could be wrong, but I don't think he did. So Andre Palat erases a lackluster first 6 games with an excellent play there. And then you've got a little bit later, Tomas Tatar, he ends up scoring a goal, his first of the playoff run as well, and that made it 2-0 in favor of the Devils, and he erases, a lackluster first 6 games. So the Devils players, who had maybe underperformed a little bit, they took full advantage of the opportunity to play in a Game 7, to put their best foot forward, and to, like I said, basically erase a lackluster first 6 games. None of the Rangers took advantage or even looked like they wanted to take advantage of the opportunity that was in front of them there. A big Game 7 from anybody who hasn't performed at their best would have gone a long way into, basically just undoing a lackluster first 6 games, for whatever player on the Rangers that felt like stepping up. But apparently nobody felt like stepping up. And, I mentioned the Tatar goal just a second ago, so we might as well dive into the second goal here as well. This was just as bad as the first one, I would say. Maybe not quite as bad, but pretty close. You've got Marino basically just being allowed to walk straight to the Ranger net without any resistance whatsoever. There's at least three players that could have, put a body on him, God forbid. The Rangers weren't doing any of that in this game. At least tried to break up the play. At least stick check him, something. But basically what happens here, Marino's got the puck in the neutral zone and gains the blue line. Mikkola, is skating backwards for the Rangers, and he's giving all kinds of ground here, and then he basically goes to a knee and just slides right out of Marino's way. So that was awfully nice of Mikkola to do that for Marino, just get out of his way and let him go to the net. Then you've got Kreider absolutely just loafing on his back check here. Kreider, from the second that he crossed over the blue line to enter the Rangers zone and, go back there on the back check, he did not move his legs a single time in this play. He just glided into the Rangers zone, got close to Marino as Marino's going to the net, and gives him, a light little push. That's all the resistance we got from Chris Kreider on this play. Never slowed down Marino for a second. Marino just bounced off him, continued to go to the net, was not able to get his shot on net. But Tarasenko was there too, and it was kind of the same deal with Tarasenko. Tarasenko, I don't even think he reached out with his stick to try to stop Marino. So Marino misses the net, puck's loose behind the net, and Marino goes and gets the puck, and Kreider, there he is, still just kind of gliding in the general direction of the puck. Marino gets there faster, obviously, makes it behind the back pass, in front to Tatar. Nobody picked up Tatar. There were 3 Rangers in the area, in the general vicinity of, the crease there, but nobody really noticed him or, got over to defend him in some way, to body him or try to break up the pass here. It was just way too easy. It was a great play by the Devils. Again, give them credit for working hard on this play, but the Rangers did not defend this play anywhere near as well as they're capable of, and certainly that you would expect them to in a Game 7. Look, if something like this happens, this is a bad goal to give up in a game in December. It's not great, but, 82-game regular season, it's going to happen from time to time. You don't expect this kind of a complete lack of effort, complete lack of execution, just not having your head in the game in a Game 7 against your division rival. It's just completely inexplicable, and like I said, there's a lot of Rangers on this team, players and coaches, that are probably going to have to answer to this. But, the Rangers, basically through their own lack of compete here, they hand goals to noted offensive juggernauts Michael McLeod and Tomas Tatar. Unacceptable. Just garbage efforts by the Rangers on both of these goals. Credit to the Devils for being opportunistic, but the Rangers did absolutely nothing to slow these guys down. And just like that, they're in a 2-0 hole, and the game is essentially over. And I never say that. I always think a team can come back. The way the Rangers were playing just wasn't going to happen at this point. 2 goals was way too much. Rangers weren't going to score 2 goals in this game, and technically at this point, they need to score 3 goals, and that certainly wasn't going to happen. We're going to keep everything rolling in just a second. I want to talk in greater detail about the first period. Rangers had some chances in the first period, and like I said, something of a lackluster opening first 20 minutes, but probably, no, not even probably, it was their best period that they played the entire game. It just got worse and worse as the game progressed. We're going to do all that good stuff in just a second here, but first, we got to let everybody know that today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by Gametime. Buying tickets to your favorite events should not be stressful. Gametime is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for all the fun that you are about to have. Gametime is the place for last-minute ticket deals. Forget planning months in advance. Gametime has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. Get exclusive flash deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. The Gametime guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. Get images of your seat before you buy so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. Buy tickets in a matter of seconds, 2 taps, and you're all set. Snag the tickets without the stress with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, we just want to thank you guys, as always, for making Locked On New York Rangers your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms. And to the everydayers, I can't thank you guys enough for going through this roller coaster with me, this thing that we call New York Ranger hockey, all the highest highs, all the lowest lows. I think last night is a pretty prime example as far as the lowest lows are concerned. So a big thank you to the everydayers. I hear from people that have been listening since, we were at like 10 episodes, 20 episodes. So that's obviously a really cool thing. Now over 800. And for anybody who's new here, listen, you're more than welcome to stick around. We'd love to have you. We've kind of built I like to think of it as like just a fun little Ranger community here. We all, talk to each other. We discuss Ranger hockey. We debate things with each other. It's a lot of fun. And, we keep each other from going crazy, which I think we're going to all need to do after what we saw from this team last night. But we're not slowing down here. I realize the Ranger season obviously comes to a very abrupt, very disappointing end, to say the very least. But, man, we're going to keep things rolling in the offseason here. I'm looking forward to that. Obviously, I'd rather the Rangers still be playing. But we're going to be talking about what the future holds for Gerard Gallant. I'm planning on doing a 2-part episode where we make a case against Gallant sticking around, and we make a case for him. We're going to be taking a look at the draft, Ranger free agents, who they should re-sign, who they should let walk, whatever the case might be there. Certainly going to look also at, which Rangers could be on the trade block and a whole bunch of other stuff as well. So definitely stick around if you're new to the show. And once again, for the everydayers, cannot thank you guys enough for always being here and always supporting the show. And again, just kind of going through the roller coaster together, because being a Ranger fan is never easy. We get some pretty cool moments, but obviously the championships are few and far between. But I do want to shift our attention here to the first period, because this is where the Rangers had a chance, basically in spite of themselves, to maybe take an early lead in this game, and they just were not able to do it. The power play issues. This, to me, is what really cost the Rangers in this series. You live let's try that again. You live by the sword, you die by the sword. And that's what we saw here. The Rangers were just brutal on the power play down the stretch. 1 for their last 21 to close out this series on the man advantage for the New York Rangers. And, the Devils, obviously, they played a lot better as this series went on. We've established that clearly. But one thing that they kept doing wrong, one mistake that they kept making, they were taking a lot of penalties in this series, and a lot of penalties that they really did not need to take. We saw some examples of that in the first period here. And I want to go ahead and just kind of look at the 3 power plays that the Rangers got in the first period, just to see if we can figure out what went wrong, because the Rangers had 3 power plays in the first 14 minutes of this game. You got to cash in at least one of them. And 2 of them were basically back-to-back. The second and third power play for the Rangers, there was maybe like a minute between the 2 of them, if that. So you got to put the puck in the net in one of these. There's too much talent up and down this lineup, and certainly on the power play units, for that to not happen. And, obviously not scoring there really cost the Rangers. They had a chance to, take an early lead, maybe even score twice on the power play. What a wild situation that would have been for this team. But, couldn't get the job done, obviously. The first power play, Tyler Mott shifts onto the ice. He gets tripped in the neutral zone. Mott, one of the few players that I thought actually competed, at least showed up in this game. But Rangers to the man advantage. You get a face-off win by Mika, And, the power play only lasts 33 seconds because the Rangers end up taking a penalty. The Devils get the puck out of the zone. You've got Hischier driving to the net. Adam Fox has position, but just was not able to cut him off. Hischier went, to the outside of Adam Fox, kept driving, kept, pushing hard to get to the net, and he got there, and Igor made the save. But Adam Fox had to hold Hischier while this was happening. And Fox is bigger than Hischier. I don't know the exact heights and weights right now off the top of my head here, but he's bigger. There's no excuse for this. You cannot let this happen. And Adam Fox has to take a penalty. Adam Fox had a really rough game. And just like that, the power play is over after a grand total of, 33 seconds? So great first power play there, taking a penalty 33 seconds into it. The second power play, now this is the one that actually looked like the Rangers had a couple of good chances. Mott draws another penalty. They should have just left Mott out there on the power play. He's out there at least competing. He's out, I'm saying that like half seriously. I don't really think Mott should have been out there on the power play. But he's out there drawing penalties. He's competing his butt off. You know what? If he's the one making things happen and competing hard and drawing penalties, then let him out there, let him enjoy the fruits of his labor. He drew the penalty, so put him out there on the power play. Why not? I mean, look how bad this power play has been. And again, I do say that only half seriously. I do think you have to stick with your top guys here, but food for thought at least. But yeah, I mean, the power play here, you get a couple of chances. Fox to Mika, the one-timer goes wide. A lot of wide shots of the net for the Rangers in this series and in this game as well. The Devils started to key on the Mika Zibanejad one-timer. Panarin to Kreider looking for the deflection attempt. That wasn't even close. You had a situation where, and this is the one point where it looked like they were about to score. Mika passes back to Fox. Fox is slowly moving toward the net. He goes around behind the net. I think a lot of the penalty killers for the Devils were anticipating that he was going to get rid of the puck. He never did. He went behind the net, passes back in front to Mika. Mika to his right to Tarasenko, and the shot just grazes the outside of the goalpost, went wide of the net. This was the one play, I thought, really, of the entire game that the Rangers, brilliantly executed a scoring chance. And, the million-dollar question here is if Tarasenko scores, does the game unfold differently? You never know for sure how that's going to affect both teams. But honestly, with the way that the Rangers played in this game, the way they just did not compete at all, I get the feeling they probably would have just lost the game 4-1 instead of 4-0. I mean, you never know for sure how a goal there could affect things, but I saw nothing from this Ranger team the rest of this game that suggested that, if Tarasenko scored there, they would have won. No, there was nothing to suggest that, even in the slightest. And they don't score here. The second unit gets on the ice for the Rangers toward the end of this power play, and the second unit is just not going to score. The second power play unit for the Rangers was really rough in this series. I mean, so was the top unit, but the second unit, you feel like they have almost no chance. So the third power play of the first period, delay of game on ball, and you got Panarin once again looking for the deflection for Kreider. It wasn't really particularly close to going in. Panarin feeds Mika for a one-timer. That doesn't go. You get it cleared by the Devils with 1:20 left. The second unit was on the ice about midway through this power play. And once the second unit is on the ice, like I said, you might as well just go back to playing 5-on-5 because it's just not going to happen for that unit. They did not even come close to scoring a power play goal this entire series. And so, yeah, I mean, I think that's a huge part in this game where the Rangers just failing to convert the power plays, the power play opportunities in the first period, that obviously haunted them. And honestly, that might have been the reason why this game was scoreless after the first period. Obviously, you have Igor to thank for that as well. He was very good. But the Devils, they were skating circles around the Rangers even in the first period, but they kept shooting themselves in the foot by taking these penalties. And so, the Rangers would get a little bit of a reprieve there. At least they're on the power play, and the Devils aren't going to get any scoring chances, you would have to think. So maybe that slowed the Devils down a little bit. And once they got away from taking bad penalties, which is what the Devils did in the second and third period, they only took one more penalty the rest of the way. They were off and running, and it might have been the dumb Devil penalties in the first period were the only reason why the Rangers were even able to stay in this game at all. We're going to keep everything rolling in just a second. I got to call out the Breadman in just a minute here, and I hate doing this. I hate burying players on the team. It's not a fun thing to do. And clearly, Artemi Panarin was not the only player that underperformed for the Rangers in this playoff run here, if you can even call it a run, the 7 games that they played here. But he stood out more than anybody because he's the superstar player and just did not get the job done. And we're going to talk about Panarin and his lackluster performance, shall we say, in the Stanley Cup playoffs, and we're going to do that in just a second. But first, we got to let everybody know that today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by Athletic Greens. I started taking AG1, and I use it literally every day because I wanted a supplement that actually tastes great, and I wanted to see what all the hype was about. Now I've been on it for about 11 or 12 months, give or take, and I love it. It doesn't taste like it's super healthy. It has kind of a mild tropical taste that I actually look forward to each morning. So what is this stuff? With one delicious scoop of AG1, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, nervous system, immune system, energy, recovery, focus, and aging, everything. So, important thing to know about AG1. It is lifestyle friendly, whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free. It costs you less than $3 a day. You're investing in your health, and it is cheaper than your cold brew habit. And Athletic Greens has over 7,000 five-star reviews. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just one scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL Network. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/NHL Network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. All right, let's keep everything rolling here. Artemi Panarin just did not get the job done at all in the playoffs. I mean, I'm preaching to the choir here. Judging from New York Ranger Twitter, I'm far from the only Ranger fan that was dissatisfied with what we got from the Breadman here. He could not get anything going. Was a ghost in a lot of these games. Turned the puck over. He had a turnover in this game that led to a rush for the Devils and a breakaway. That was the Jack Hughes breakaway. Panarin tried to do like a drop pass or something, whatever he was trying to do along the boards on the right side. And it leads to a breakaway for Jack Hughes. Hughes going in alone against Igor. He got Igor moving to his left and then tried to shoot it back in the opposite direction. Nice pad save by Igor. Got just enough of it to deflect it wide of the far post there. So great job by Igor Shesterkin, who had another outstanding playoff series. Deserved a heck of a lot better from his teammates. But to keep the focus on Artemi Panarin here. So to sum up his playoffs, Panarin in Game 1 had a secondary assist on each of the first 2 goals of the series. The Rangers were up 2-0. Panarin made a couple nice plays. Secondary assist on the first 2 goals. Okay, good start here. And I actually did an episode, and I mean, LOL at this point, but I did an episode. We had an extra day between Game 1 and Game 2 where I was going to throw out another episode. I'm trying to think what's the biggest storyline so far here? We've only played 1 game. Rangers had the big win. What players stood out and who impressed and what's going to be big going forward. And to me, one of the biggest stories from that first game is that Artemi Panarin looked very good. And it wasn't just the 2 assists. I thought he just played a strong game in general. And I said Panarin might be primed for a big playoff run. And obviously that was not the case. Little did I know he would not get another point the rest of the way. But that's what's crazy about this. If you exclude the first period of Game 1 of this series, you or me would have gotten just as many points the rest of the way as Artemi Panarin got in this series. It was just a stunning, complete no-show. Just somebody who could not get anything going. And I think part of the problem is that Artemi Panarin just isn't himself when the playoffs roll around, or at least he has not been these last 2 seasons with the New York Rangers. You think of Artemi Panarin and you think, first of all, just a tremendously skilled, excellent hockey player. Beyond that, he's somebody that goes out there, he has fun, man. He enjoys playing the game. He's always smiling. He's always goofing around. You got the big Panarin leg kick. He's always having fun with his teammates. He's always talking to them on the bench. Just a bouncy, lively player. And then he gets to the playoffs and he's tense, and I get it. It's the playoffs. It's big time hockey at this point. You're trying to win a Stanley Cup and there's a lot of pressure, but I don't think you can change who you are from the regular season to the playoffs and expect to be successful. If you're somebody who's jovial and happy and you wear your emotions on your sleeve and you just have a freaking blast playing the game of hockey and that's who you are in the regular season, that's who you need to be in the playoffs too. You can have fun and still take it very seriously. Artemi Panarin, he looks just like, I was going to say miserable. That might be too strong of a word, but he looks so tense, so stressed in the playoffs, gripping the stick way too tight, overthinking everything, trying to make plays that aren't there. It's just, it has not been a recipe for success for Panarin in the playoffs. The fact that he's undersized, that works against him in the postseason too. Obviously it's a lot more physical, a lot more hitting. It's in-your-face hockey in the playoffs, and the Devils did a great job defending him. But for the second year in a row, Artemi Panarin with a very lackluster showing in the playoffs where he just doesn't look like himself, both from a personality standpoint and also from what he's doing on the ice. It's just not the Breadman. I don't know what it is, but it's not Artemi Panarin. It's not the Breadman. He forgets to enjoy playing hockey when the playoffs roll around. And on the MSG post game, I think it was Valaket who mentioned this. They talked about, the acquisition of Patrick Kane, and we'll get to Kane and some of the other Rangers. They had some lackluster showings in the playoffs. We'll do that, throughout the rest of the week here. But the idea that Valakep put out there was that, with Kane coming over, this is Panarin's buddy. They were together in Chicago. And, Panarin has had some decent playoff showings in the past with Chicago and Columbus. So it's not like he can't do it. But Valakep made the point that Kane coming over was going to be good for Panarin in the playoffs. He'll kind of follow Kane's lead a little bit. And, Kane, obviously the Cup champion, and he'll show Panarin what it takes to do in the playoffs. There was none of that. There was none of that at all. I mean, I know they didn't play on the same line all that often, if at all, in the series, but they were out there for a while in the same power play unit, and, it just did not work. It just did not work. And Panarin, man, I mean, there's a lot of Rangers who I mentioned earlier in the episode. This performance is going to stick to them. It's not going to stick to anybody the way it's going to stick to Artemi Panarin. And there's a lot of people saying, trade Panarin, do this, do that. He's being paid too much, $11.6 million per season. I get the frustration. I get the anger. The thing is, Artemi Panarin has a full no-move clause. So if he doesn't want to go anywhere, he's not going to go anywhere. And on top of that, trading Panarin, his value's never been lower than it is right now. He just had a complete no-show in the playoffs. Do you really think the other teams in this league aren't going to look at what Panarin just did in the playoffs and have a little bit of a red flag and have their eyebrows go up a little bit? I mean, who would want to trade for him right now? And it's not that he's not a great player. He is. We see what he does in the regular season every year. But coming off of a playoff performance like that, that's just not going to cut it. And I don't think a lot of teams are going to be lining up to take on that kind of a playoff performance as well as that high of a cap hit. So, I mean, I think Panarin's back next season. I don't know if maybe fans are going to turn on him. I kind of hope not, because I think he's a good guy, and I don't, wish that on him. But, yeah, Panarin, I mean, the bottom line, the dude didn't get it done in the playoffs. Nico Mikkola had as many points in the Stanley Cup playoff run for the New York Rangers as Artemi Panarin did. And there was a rumor, too, that, after the playoff run last year, Chris Drury was unhappy with Artemi Panarin. And I don't know that this was ever really confirmed. I'm honestly not really sure where this rumor came from, so take it with a little bit of a grain of salt here. But, maybe it leaked from a member of the front office. Maybe somebody overheard something. But the rumor was that Chris Drury was upset with how Artemi Panarin played in the playoffs last year. Last year in the playoffs, Panarin was clearly not at his best. It got to the point where a lot of us figured that he was playing through some kind of an injury. But if he was, the Rangers kept that airtight even after the season ended. We never got word of him playing injured or anything like that. Panarin last year in the playoffs, despite not being at his best and playing indecisive hockey, turning the puck over too much, just not being the Breadman, he still ended up with 16 points in 20 games, and he still had a moment that Ranger fans will never forget, a Game 7 overtime winner against the despised rival Pittsburgh Penguins to complete a 3-1 comeback last year in the playoffs. So Panarin, despite not being at his best, still did some good things for the Rangers in last year's playoffs. There's nothing salvageable about what Artemi Panarin did in the playoffs this year. And so if Drury was upset with Panarin, who, again, despite not playing his best, still ended up with 16 points in 20 games last season, I mean, I can't even imagine what he's thinking about Artemi Panarin right here, right now, after, again, he was just a complete no-show for this entire series. Just never got it going and never really looked like he was going to get going. It's not like he had bad luck. It's not like he was getting robbed left and right. It's not like he put some shots off the post. It's not like, he made a great pass to his teammate and his teammate shanked the shot. There was none of that. This was just Artemi Panarin not playing good hockey. And again, it's not on just Panarin, but I felt the need to address this right here in the first postseason episode of Locked On New York Rangers, because he stands out more than anybody. He's the highest paid player. He's the superstar player. He's the guy that, always leads the way for the Rangers in the regular season, and thus far has not gotten it done for the Rangers in the playoffs. And again, he's had other good playoff runs, both with the Jackets and with the Blackhawks, but with the Rangers, these two playoff runs, and we're not going to count the 2020 season, the COVID year when they only played 3 games. He had 2 points in 3 games for whatever that's worth. But yeah, these last 2 years, Artemi Panarin just does not look like himself in the playoffs and just doesn't look like he can get the job done. So to kind of wrap things up here today, I mean, honestly, I might finish this episode and just push record and record the next one, because why not? We don't have another game to wait for. The Rangers season is over, and I got a whole lot else to say about this performance by the Rangers. We're going to, in the next episode, call out some players for the Rangers that just did not get the job done. We'll give some props to the players that did show up, and don't worry, that list is not going to be very long. It starts with Igor Shesterkin, and I mean, maybe 1 or 2 other players after that, if that. We'll see. We'll see how it goes there, if I can pull any positives out of this debacle of a playoff series for the New York Rangers. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. This is our 4th season of Locked On New York Rangers, and again, I do have to take this opportunity to once again thank you guys so much for, whether you've been listening from day one, this is your first time listening to Locked On New York Rangers, I invite you to certainly stick around. We got a lot to talk about in the offseason, free agency, trades, The coaching staff, are they secure? Are they going to get fired? What's going to happen there? There's a boatload of things. I mean, even Chris Drury, I don't know that he's 100% safe either, and I would not move on from Chris Drury at all, but we know that Dolan is not a patient man, and he can make some knee-jerk decisions. We'll see how that whole thing goes, going forward here, but yeah, I think that's pretty much it. One other thing that I want to definitely talk about in the future, too, the Hartford Wolfpack. They're still in the playoffs. They won their best-of-3 series against Springfield, swept them 2-0 in the first round. They now lead Providence 2-0 in the best-of-5 in the semifinals, or the division semifinals. Bottom line, to win the Calder, the Pack had to win this series and then 3 more series. But we're gonna maybe lock in on them a little bit more. We're gonna keep most of the focus on the Rangers, but I certainly want to shout out the Wolfpack since, hey, I mean, they're still playing right now, and the Rangers are not. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. In our next episode, we're going to, once again, talk a little bit about the players that underachieved in the playoffs here and also the players that delivered. And again, very few players that delivered, but we'll get to that in our next episode. But again, thank you guys so much. Everybody, more than welcome to stick around, whether you're an everydayer or whether you're just checking out this show for the first time, these last couple episodes. Obviously, the playoffs, everybody wants to, find every podcast and read every article. And again, please do stick around going forward because the Rangers season might be over, but we're not going to be slowing down here on Locked On New York Rangers. But that will do it for today, guys. Once again, if you'd like to get in touch with this podcast, please send an email to lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Once again, that is lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. And definitely give us a follow on Twitter as well, at @LO_NY_Rangers. Once again, that's at @LO_NY_Rangers. And definitely subscribe to Locked On New York Rangers YouTube channel. Thanks again, guys. I'll see you next time.